Hello everyone, today we are with Howard Wimshurst. You're a filmmaker, 2D animator. You make film on YouTube and tutorials about how you make things.
I'm an artist and filmmaker who specializes in 2D animation, and I started the YouTube channel to share some of that knowledge that I've learned. Also for me to push myself to learn more and to document the process of animation.
Okay, so first question, how did this passion for animation come to you?
This was a long time ago. I must have been about 13 or 14 years old. And I had this friend who would just experiment in all kinds of things that were digital. So he tried games, he tried flash animations, and he would try 3D stuff. And he even went into like computer hacking and things like that. He wanted to work for MI6 for a while. He didn't end up doing that, but I had this friend, and he would try out all these things, and then he would tell me about them, and then he would kind of get me involved in it. And we had Macromedia Flash on the school computers. That was the software that we were using back in the day. It's quite old now, but yeah, we would just experiment on that, and we were just being playful and trying different things, and that eventually grew into a larger sort of hobby, almost like an obsession. I see obsession as being quite a good word, really.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I like the word obsession, really. That's what it was. That's what it became.
You are talking about experimenting, and
Yeah.
I think it's the right word for your YouTube channel where you are testing many things. So
Yeah.
maybe talking about how do you test animation? How do you learn animation?
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing because I think the perception might be that with a channel like this, that I'm some kind of like authority on animation, and this is my sphere of knowledge, and I just go, okay, I'm going to talk about this today because I know about this. I'm going to talk about this today because I know all about this. I know everything there is to learn about this. Here's what you need to know. It's not like that, really. What it is like this. I've got a small sphere of knowledge that I'm quite comfortable with. That's like my expertise. And then what I do is I'll look for something just slightly outside of that expertise, something that I know a little bit about, but I want to learn more about it. And I'll focus on that, and I'll start writing the episode, and then find, oh wait, actually I don't know a lot about that. Actually, I need to go and research it. I need to go and watch more. I need to watch a documentary on it, or I need to rewatch a film I saw in my childhood that was a good example of that. So as much as it helps other people to learn, it also helps me to learn. So it's a bit selfish as well.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's about exploring things and the journey. And I think
Yeah.
on YouTube and social media in general, when you're explaining things, it becomes really clear to people that you are just someone who is on a journey, and that's what is interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if I know that all there is to know about a subject, then it stops becoming interesting to me. There's no mystery there. There's no drive for me to find out more about it. And the best videos are the ones where I am truly interested. Someone once said to me, because I was just making a video, and I was just being like, yeah, this is what I'm going through right now. And he said, oh, you should be more enthusiastic about it. You should sort of play it up and be more energetic.
Yeah.
I just said, I can't do that. I cannot fake it. I'd be the worst actor ever if I went into acting, because I just can't fake that enthusiasm. So whenever you see me being really interested in showing an interest in something, it's real, because I can't fake it. Yeah.
And maybe we can talk about like the tools. I know the tools are not the thing about your work, but the tools are something like important. And recently you quit Flash to make animation with TVPaint. So how was the transition?
I think it's important for the tools to minimize resistance to what you're making. Like an extreme analogy is like if I heard someone say this once, and it really struck with me. So if Vincent van Gogh was to every time he was to make a painting, he would be violently ill and sick. Then he wouldn't become a master of painting because there was that resistance in the way that was blocking him. And similarly, if you're really frustrated with the software that you use, then you're not going to want to make animations, you're not going to want to make good artwork. So it will stop you from reaching your potential. So while I also agree that it's not so much about the tools, it's about the creativity. It's important that the software doesn't get in the way, or that the tools you use don't get in the way. And that's what I like about TVPaint. It's not getting in the way, it's helping the process. I'm excited when I open it up. When I click on the menu, I'm excited, I'm ready to go, I'm looking forward to it. It's a nice feeling.
And I was pretty happy to see like your video, because you were not talking about how the software is made, you were just talking about how you just open it and then you drew and you just animate. And this is as simple as that. This is a tool for you to draw. And
that's how I like it. I like that the software kind of takes a back seat. It's not the star of the show. I've seen some other softwares where it could be quite impressive what they show. Maybe it's something really wacky and you're like, whoa, that's a crazy thing that they've put into the software. But those kind of really flashy features, they're the ones that you use the least amount of times. They're not the things that you rely on a day-to-day basis as an animator. What you rely on is things like the pencil, the timeline. Those are the important things to me. They're the staples, really. So I'm a bit traditional in a way. What that teaches you is to strip away all of the bells and whistles. It takes all of that away from you. So you've just got the pencil, the paper, maybe an eraser, and that's it. You gotta work with that. You've got to draw your way out of these situations. TVPaint kind of reminds me of that.
You were talking about 2D animation, so you learned this by your own or in a school?
I had an instructor. It's kind of changed hands, really. In the first year when I learned 2D animation, I had an instructor who she didn't really teach me how to do it. She just said, this is the task, we've got a theme, you need to do it was the basic kind of stuff, like you got to do a bouncing ball. And the reason was because I came from a Flash background, but a lot of people in the class hadn't, and they were doing animation for the first time. So I kind of said, can I mix it up a little bit? And she said yes, because she just let me go free. So I did this guy who transformed into a bouncing ball as he bounced and then bounced around, and I got to add some more challenges into it. Similarly with the walk cycle, I had the walk cycle and there's like twister happening on one side and like an explosion on the other, just to add that extra challenge to it. She was an instructor, but she just kind of let me roam free with everything. The guy I'm currently being taught by, he's very different. He's much more, well, he does let me go off on sort of tasks like that. It's a lot more restricted, like we have to do things his way. And that's also valuable because it simulates more of a studio environment, and in the studio that might be asked of you. You might have to work to someone else's style, for example. You might have to rein in your creativity a bit and be more cohesive with everyone else. I'm lucky to have had both of those teachers.
So about the way you learned, do you think there is a specific way to learn animation, like bouncing balls, walk cycles, or you can go directly on a project, like I want to do a film, and then I learn to animate through the process?
I personally like that approach of having the goal in mind, and then you have to learn things in order to reach that goal. And then everything feels, everything has a motivation. So I quite like that personally, but I know other people who want to train first. So if you're doing just a bouncing ball exercise, if it doesn't go well, you're not risking anything. If you're working on a large film, then there's a bit more risk there. But that can also be an advantage. I personally like to have a story, and then I learn things, techniques and other approaches in order to make that story real. Like if I want to do something with like a watercolor feel, I set that out in the beginning that I want to make it look watercolor style, and then I have to find out how to do that. So that's a great way to learn.
Yeah, I think so too, because when you are a beginner, it's kind of hard to, like, you have many ideas, you want to make ambitious films, you want to do like what you see in the theater, and you are kind of frustrated when you do just balls and walking cycles and things like that. So it's hard to find a way to stimulate and not being boring and mechanical. So it's kind of tricky.
It's not the most motivating thing to animate bouncing balls and flour sacks and things like that. If you really don't have any idea for what to animate, but you want to make something, those exercises can be good. I actually made a video which was listing out those kind of exercises. If you imagine your goals as a target, you know, in archery, you have the target, and there are the rings and things. My recommendation is often to shoot for the center, right in the bullseye. Just shoot for it. Don't think, oh, I'm gonna fire the arrow and it's gonna ricochet off of that and it's going to eventually hit the target. Just shoot the target, you know, just get it right in the bullseye. So in that case, you know, if your end goal is to make a short film or an animated series, start making it. Just make the animated series. Yes, it won't be perfect. I've got news for you. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. So just dismiss that idea, and just action is very important.
And so currently you're on a specific film. I saw your last video when we see your friend making a film. So are you part of it too?
No, I'm not part of that one. Although we've had a lot of late night 4 a.m. talks about, you know, he comes into my room, he's like, oh no, this idea is not working, and then I'm pacing up and down saying, well, what if the character did this? And so it's nice to just be among people who have those kind of problems. We're basically making our own personal films at the same time. We just went through pre-production together, but on separate films.
Your goal is to be a generalist. You want to do everything in a film, or you want to specialize in like concept, storyboard, animation?
Well, I love so many parts of the process. I'm passionate about all of it, you know, but as I get older and I start to move further into my career, I'm feeling enormous pressure to specialize, to narrow down. It's harder to find work as a generalist. For example, you can't really, unless you're going your own way and just completely forging your own path, you probably won't have that much luck being a director straight out of university. Or that's what everyone's telling me, people who you can trust. There's a lot of pressure to have a narrow skill set. You get paid more, basically. You get a higher wage in general if you have a narrow skill set, something that you go deep into. So I know a guy who's just really good at rigging for 3D models, and that's like, he's gonna be able to walk into a big studio like Double Negative or something and just be their guy who creates those skeletons for them. I guess the best compromise is to have a T-shape skill. So a T-shape is wide along the top and then it goes narrow on one particular skill. I like being a director. I'm a producer out of necessity because basically films don't get made without producers. You need a producer to make the film, and often the director is the producer, and that's kind of like what I do. And that's been fine in my freelance enterprise where I've been running my own show. But recently I decided that I want to try working as part of a studio, so that's what I'm aiming for. That was quite a recent decision, actually. So So for that, I'm having to completely change my whole approach to everything, really. I've been more of an entrepreneur up until this point, so it's quite a big step for me to you know, now I'm repurposing, if that is a word, yeah, repurposing my website and everything and my portfolio to fit into a company and to work well with others in that company.
So what gave you this idea to move on from like a freelance to a studio?
There are certain benefits of it, and one of them is that it can actually help me to get to that studio, creating a studio. The thing with creating your own studio, the step up from a freelancer to a studio owner is a very big step, and it's a very difficult step, scaling. So and it's at that early stage where you have to turn one worker into two workers, and then into three and four. That is the hardest step up, because if you think about it, your income needs to double. And I think that's the only point in time in any business where your income needs to double with the wages that come in. You need to earn twice the amount. So that's a 200% increase. Now, in a business of 100 employees, if they want to hire on 10 more employees, it's not going to be a 200% increase in income that they need. So that rate of growth is smaller. So I'm getting all businessy with that, but that is really difficult. And so there are certain things that you can get by paying your dues and working, putting a little bit of work at an established studio. One of them is just the experience and the knowledge, things like the pipeline, but also the contacts you meet in the industry. You can actually evolve from working in-house at one of those studios to forming your own enterprise and dealing with their overflow work. A lot of this is kind of theoretical because I have to speculate a little bit until I actually get there and see what it's like. But I'm doing my best to put in my research and learn these things.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk with you about the business part of it, because I think it's kind of hard to make a living out of animation if you're one animator who do everything. So how do you manage that? Because for now you were like selling your files and services and art.
Yeah.
Was it difficult? How did you make that at the beginning?
It wasn't that difficult because I could do it gradually over time. So I didn't just do all of those things in one weekend. I did them like I would first introduce one more thing and then another thing, and eventually I had like at least 5 different revenue streams coming in. They're not massive revenue streams. They're not currently enough for me to not make income from the freelancing, but they make a difference. You know, they do help. I've got the AdSense. I've got the affiliate links to certain books. I make book recommendations, send them an affiliate link. It's not a lot of income. It's a small amount that trickles in, but it's something. You've got the downloads on the website. You've got the Patreon, which is actually making a big difference to me right now. Even though, you know, it's just a small group of members who I treat really well, give them extra content. You know, I make extra videos for them and talk to them all, like kind of know them personally, I guess. That income allows me to buy new equipment. It allows me to take on less freelancing work so that I can spend more time on the videos. I don't know what's going to happen to all of that stuff when I join a studio. It's when you sign a contract with the studio, they essentially buy you. So
and the ideas
I have
and
to
everything.
negotiate it. Yeah, I have to negotiate it, you know. But I don't think it's a disadvantage to me to try out those methods. I don't think it's a disadvantage at all. It shows that I'm showing initiative. I'm trying different things. I'm being experimental, and I have that business savvy mindset that a lot of artists aren't interested in. So I see it as an asset. If I join a studio, I think they'll value that.
And do you think like going to a studio is sort of outsourcing the business side of your art and making really your time on art only?
right now my attention is kind of split in multiple directions, which I don't really like. So that's one of the advantages of working for a studio, is that they have people who's like, for example, talking to clients, managing clients, negotiating and all of that. That's a skill. That's a really, I mean, there are people who are, that is their day to day, that's what they do, and they specialize in that. I have to like pay a little bit of attention to that whilst doing the art. It's a lot to learn, and it's not allowing me to specialize and become an expert in one field. So yeah, it should help that, you know, leaving that to a professional. Yeah.
And I'm not sure about it, but you are still a student, or you?
Yeah,
You're
I'm a
student?
full-time student right now. So
Okay.
the film that I'm making is my thesis film. So once that's made, I will essentially be graduating. So that's where I am. I'm in my third year of university. It's an interesting stage in my career for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because uh, I don't know if many students, like students you know, are making that business stuff for their animation and their art, because this is really important, but you don't learn this in art school.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a big problem, I think. So
Yeah.
what do you think
So
about this? Like your friends and
yeah, you're right. I don't see many students doing it, or at least not doing it with the same focus that I have. You know, a lot of the students who are here in the UK, they're on student loan, and so the need for extra income is not, it's not immediate. You know, they're not going to get evicted if they don't make that extra income. So because there's not that push for it, they don't they tend to not do it. And then all of a sudden, when they graduate and they're looking for a job and they can't find a job, yeah, nosedive. So they all of a sudden need all that income, and then they're thinking, why did I not start this stuff earlier and try to develop it into something? So I definitely recommend buy a few books on internet marketing, on what have I got on my shelf here? Let's see. Let's pull down a few. So things like, you know, marketing books. I've got Walt Disney's biography here. It's not just art books. It's different things that I think will help me. You know, there's an interesting book. I'm wondering if I've got it on my shelf here. It's by Daniel B. Levy, and it's called something like Your Career in Animation. And he just talks about things you can do, like social things you can do to just give yourself a really good chance if you're working your way up the employment ladder in animation. That's quite a good book recommendation, I think, if you're looking for something to help you in that regard.
you said that the artist, the business side is like two separate worlds, but many artists will be like freelance, and even if you don't want to be a freelance, to get in a studio, you have to make yourself known from the studio owners and the
Yeah.
producers. So just having your face on YouTube is like an advantage.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's not by accident that I have a webcam turned on, and you know, there's that facial interaction. That was very deliberate. This was a big learning point for me. I spent a year as a freelancer. I was working for this client, really nice guy, and he had a Kickstarter campaign. So basically, he was completely funding me. He was, you know, creating an independent web series, and then the funding's dried up basically, and so we went to Kickstarter. At that point, I had to decide whether or not to do the freelancing before the Kickstarter was made. So I decided to risk it and to go with the Kickstarter, and hopefully I'd have a full year of employment, because that would pay for that entire year of working as a freelancer. And it didn't. The Kickstarter collapsed. It didn't meet the funding goal, and I was left without a job for a year. So I had to quickly get clients and work as a freelancer. It was a very, very good learning experience, because I was thrown into it and I had to learn these skills. I applied to so many jobs, so many freelancing jobs on these freelancer websites, and I got 0 of them. 0 replies.
Okay.
No one even took the time to write back. So, and I'm not bitter about that. It's just how it works. You're competing against these small, you'll be competing against small, like maybe 5-person studios in like the Philippines, where the wages, you don't need as much money to keep a studio running there. You're just going to get outgunned. So I had to learn quickly. And basically, I learned a very big lesson, which was that what you need is you need to reverse the whole thing. People need to apply to you. And to do that, you need to make work that's so good that people flock to you.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 parts of that strategy. You need to make the work as good as you possibly can. And the second one is you need to make it ridiculously easy for people to find you. When you do those 2 things, then people apply to you, and then you get this abundance of different clients where you can, you set the terms. And it's the equivalent of like trying to scoop water up from the floor and try to, drink water that's just spilt on the floor, and just taking a bucket and pouring it over your head. It's that much of a difference in the amount you can make and the amount of work you can have. So I was quite lucky, and a couple of months into that year, I received an offer, and it went through, and I worked on a music video, and that music video was able to pay for my entire year of freelancing. It took me 5 months to make, and I worked on it extremely hard. I gave it everything I had, and had a happy ending. It worked out pretty well. I make videos for people who are just like a few steps behind me. I can't make videos for people who are already working in like studio positions, because I don't know that world yet. I'm about to learn it, and that's been the case always, that I've made videos for people who are just a few steps behind. And so if you're looking to do a similar thing, that's what I recommend you do. Anyway, what was your next question?
Just to finish the video, like having some advices for actually maybe young people who want to be an animator, or just an artist in general, like they're afraid about what tool to use, what exercise to make, what book to read.
I was very lucky. I had parents who were very, very supportive of me. As soon as I made that decision to pursue art as a career, and that's really what I wanted to do, then they could see that I was passionate about it, and they let me. I've known of friends who have, their parents have really been a big source of resistance in their lives, and also their friends. Your friends might think it's not cool to make animations and to be creative, to put the apron on and start painting and things. They'll laugh at you and things. I've got a secret. They'll laugh at you at first because it's different and they just don't know how to react to it. But secretly they want to be you. They're jealous, or they secretly admire you. So be crazy, be a little bit be a little bit weird. Don't worry about it. If you're in school, I know what it's like in high school and things, that socially it's a very weird time, and teenagers typically hate anything. They hate doing anything. Like anything that involves doing something, they'll hate it. So you just got to block that out, and you just got to go for it, and be you. Don't try and be other people, just be yourself. If you're trying to make videos for a certain audience, just be aware that you should start out, the easiest way to make videos is to make videos for people who are like you and who like the same thing as you. So that's what I recommend. I don't recommend you make videos for people who aren't you, because that's quite difficult, and you'll often miss, and you won't quite get it. People say it's, I can't afford the software, I can't afford the hardware. Yes, I'm aware that is a real problem for some people. But what you probably don't realize is that is less of an obstacle than you realize. The main obstacle is it's all in here. It's you're the main obstacle. So it costs you very little to get a pen and a paper, or a pencil and paper, and do drawings. Now, making films and things of that nature, maybe not with games, that's the only difference, but making films, almost everything can be learned on paper. Okay, so you can make flip books if you want to learn animation, and that's really easy. You just get a pad of paper, you draw a little thing, and then you go on to the next one, you draw that, and okay, you might not have all the answers now, but you'll be able to work them out. You'll be able to work out the things. Once you start, your problem solving mind will get to the rest of it, and you'll learn it eventually. So if these things seem like really difficult to overcome, it's just because you just got to do it one step at a time. You've got no excuse now. Everyone can have a pencil and paper. I know people who don't have shoes, they can still get a pencil and paper. Okay, so start with that, and then if you want a piece of software, this is going to really teach you to be disciplined as a business owner or as a businessman. You got to save up. No one's entitled to anything, really. It's great if you have an advantage, but if you don't have an advantage, you need to create the situation where you get it. So save up. Your main motivation should then be working and hustling, saving up money. So beg, borrow, steal, find out. Actually, don't steal. I do not endorse that. But you've got to be smart. You've got to put your brain to use. I know you've got a good brain. Everyone, we're intelligent species. You can find a way. Okay, it doesn't matter where you live, doesn't matter where you are, you can find a way. Watch films if you can. It's pretty accessible to watch films no matter where you are in the world. So watch films and really observe how they're made. If you can, turn the volume off and just watch them. Maybe watch them in slow motion. Observe, see how they are. Pause them, rewind them. Go through the frames. If you're on YouTube, you can just click through the frames and watch how they're made. Okay, so observe them and then try and recreate that kind of thing. Pin those pieces of paper up on your wall or something and take pictures of them. This is what I did. I made a short film called The Bear Went Over the Mountain. It's based on a nursery rhyme that a lot of people know. All I had was a watercolor book and a pen and some watercolors. And this is exactly what I did. So I just drew out storyboards of this bear and then took pictures of it. And then I just compiled those pictures one after another, and it told the story. So you really don't need a lot to do that. It might sound boring, but trust me, it's not. It's a thrilling experience. It's amazing. You're going to be like, you're going to be so over the moon when you create your first animation, and then hopefully it's enough to make you keep creating it and just snowball effect. So if you're watching this and you're hesitant, just go for it, man. I wish you the best of luck. Just keep looking, keep your eyes open and observing things and getting your own ideas.